Games Workshop's Summer Skirmish event promised big reveals. And there was, it's just not the kind that you would have expected. I'm not talking about miniatures, I'm not talking about games, I'm talking about a whole new business model that has me deeply concerned for the future of miniature wargaming. Yeah, I left this event not with hype, but with dread. So I'm not sure if it's been entirely successful as a bit of a puff piece marketing exercise. I mean, it got me talking about it at least. But let's mention the reveals first and then we'll talk about the bad thing. That could soon be the worst thing. So first of all, Warcry got shown at this event. This is, of course, the big skirmish wargame set in Age of Sigmar. Now, this was billed as a new edition of Warcry, but it's not entirely clear if it is. Seemingly, there's not going to be a big change here, which is good. I know a lot of people who play Warcry, they all love the game, every single one of them, honestly. And everyone I know who plays was also concerned that Games Workshop were going to ruin the game, going to get rid of a really tight, clean rule set in favor of a new edition. So seemingly, Games Workshop have avoided this, so I applaud the abstinence in this case. Genuinely, this seems to have been a good announcement. Games Workshop have also revealed a bunch of new models, which look pretty cool. There are 2 warbands in this box, as per usual for the big Games Workshop Age of Sigmar box sets. The new models are pretty cool, honestly. The Nurgle guys with the bamboo reeds, the Rotmire Creed, they're not really to my taste, honestly. I basically live in a swamp in real life, so, you know, I don't really need to play a warband that contains my neighbors. But the other warband, the Horns of Hashut, are really cool, actually. I like the fact that they worship Hashut, of all things. What a random god to worship. For those who are fans of the old world, for old Warhammer Fantasy, will know that this is the bull god of tyranny and greed. The god that was worshipped by the Chaos Dwarfs. So it's kind of nice to see some old lore touched on. And honestly, if I were to play Warcry, this crew would probably be the faction that I would pick. They have a very 80s heavy metal style aesthetic, almost Conan-esque, which really appeals to me. They definitely feel like an evil empire of some kind. I love the bull helmets, and one of them even has a classic bagpipe-esque flamethrower. What's not to love? As usual though, this is a massive box set that is going to be coming with a bunch of terrain, a bunch of models, and the miniatures are more than likely not going to be sold separately. That means that if I want to play with these 10 models, I'm going to have to make the decision as to whether or not I'm going to pay hundreds of dollars for them. So I'm probably going to pass. The terrain inside this box looks fine as well, but again, it's plastic terrain. Games Workshop really overvalue their plastic terrain. It's just far too overcosted for me ever to get excited about. It's like looking at caviar. Just eat peas. It's the same thing, but green. I will eat caviar when it becomes a peasant meal once again. Also, I did notice that now Games Workshop are billing a warband tome inside this box set, which makes me pretty concerned. I don't know whether or not that is the same case for all the other Warcry box sets. Don't like the idea of these little warbands requiring battle tomes. Like, just cut that out, please. Dear God. Necromunda also got a reveal. It was really small. Like, tiny. Kind of the problem with it. Games Workshop showed a single Goliath vehicle, so it wasn't exactly inspiring for the new game system in Ash Wastes. A game which, by the way, can't be bought. There's no rulebook for Ash Wastes on the website. I checked. I mean, sure, they sell a $300 box set with a couple of miniatures, some overpriced terrain, and half of the rulebook for Ash Wastes. But I'm really not in the habit of buying sandwiches in order to scrape the butter off for my toast. So I passed on that box. So as far as I'm concerned, Ash Wastes can't be bought right now. It's an unreleased system. The model itself looks okay. Don't get me wrong. I love the idea of putting a grinder on the front of your vehicle. Okay, I'm for that for days. But I just don't like the look of this model. It just doesn't feel like the Goliath have really committed to the idea of grinding things down. Red Alert 3 did this better. I mean, this is the Goliath gang. Surely bigger is always better. And as we have established in previous videos, when it comes to post-apocalyptic settings, big vehicles make discourse go vroom. This is a teeny tiny vehicle. Very sad. Also, what happened to those agitator models that were teased for Necromunda earlier this week? Underworlds has a new faction as well. This is like a witch hunter faction. The models look really good. I'm a big fan of the witch hunter aesthetic. In Return of Reckoning, I have both a witch elf and a witch hunter. I like my witch stuff. And of course, obviously, these models are reminiscent of the old world style of design, a type of design that I'm a big fan of. The dogs shown look a little bit weird, though, a little bit chunky. Could be the angle that Games Workshop showed them off at, but I think they look almost like statues, honestly. There's just something weird about the proportions, about the neck. But otherwise, the models look fine. I think some of these models are coasting on the idea of being witch hunters, though. I think I have just residual joy for witch hunter stuff. That said, I like the understated design of these models. There's plenty of negative space, which is pretty unusual for Games Workshop sculpts, and pretty refreshing as well. Of course, every new edition of Warhammer Underworlds pushes the RRP price up by about 50%, so I'm probably never ever going to get involved with that game. But hey, maybe I'll pick the models up for Rangers of Shadow Deep or something. You know, good game. Blood Bowl also had a reveal. There was an Amazon team showed off for them. Wasn't anything hugely inspiring. The models look good. I like the Aztec armor that they have there, and I like the snakes. I like the addition of snakes. Didn't mean to say this in such a gnarly way. But I do like the snakes. That said, give them laser guns, you cowards. We're not Amazons unless they're shooting lasers, okay? And then we come to Kill Team. So, of course, there is a new Kill Team box set on the way. We all knew this. Now, before the actual event itself, Games Workshop had hinted pretty heavily that it was going to be set on a space Hulk. And there had been speculation, there had been leaks, that the box set itself would be between Kazarkin and the Gene Stealers, which would have been pretty cool, pretty reminiscent of the Space Hulk board game, right? But that was incorrect. So apparently we're getting now instead the Imperial Navy, of all things, versus Kroot. These are weird choices, to say the least. Not that I don't like it. The Imperial Navy models that have been shown off are based on some incredibly old art. I'm allowed to say that, I'm young enough to say that. And they look okay. They look okay. I think that there are some proportion things going on. It's a little bit weird. The unhelmeted model, for example, her neck proportions are a little bit weird. She just looks a little bit uncanny. But I like the aesthetic of these models. I think they look pretty cool. I like their big chunky guns. And to be honest, it is nice to see a different type of force in the Imperium be depicted. It's pretty cool. And I can actually think of a pretty neat use for these models in a secret project that I may be working on soon concerning the Ordo Hereticus. These might be a very fine addition to my collection, for sure. The Kroot models that were shown don't look as good, honestly, in my opinion. I am someone who really likes Kroot. I'm actually a big fan of Kroot. But I sort of wish that Games Workshop had just released some multi-pose Kroot models when the new Tau Codex came out earlier this year. These monopose models just won't fit in to a Warhammer 40k Tau army as well as some multi-pose models would have done. But as a skirmish force, they look fine. Nothing to write home about, but they're fine. Overall, for this event, I gotta say, I was pretty disappointed. And honestly, I've struggled to put my finger on why that is. It felt like there was no real news. Nothing revelatory about the announcements. But in fairness, I have quite liked every model that Games Workshop showed off at this event. And some of them were pretty novel, some of them were pretty unexpected and looked pretty cool. So why am I disappointed? On thinking about it, I think that it might be the case that Games Workshop have sort of oversaturated the market in news. Like, there is such a constant glut of new releases consistently spilling out from every single Games Workshop orifice almost every single day that I don't know. I think I just feel a little numb, honestly, at this stage. There's only so many products, only so many models that I can really get excited for. And presumably this Summer Skirmish event only exists because Games Workshop have figured that there's going to be a ton of new releases for 40k soon, a ton of new releases for Age of Sigmar soon, and they're going to want to keep up the marketing for those. They're going to want to be building up hype for those. They don't want the skirmish games kind of taking up space as well, so they dedicated a day to them. I mean, hell, on Friday, Angron was showed off. The day after the skirmish event, they started showing off a Snake Man model for Blood Bowl. And in fact, just as I went to record this video, I saw that there was a new Chaos Codex revealed. So yeah, sometimes it feels like every single day is a summer event day for Games Workshop. So thinking about this as an event kind of left me a little bit disappointed because it just felt a little bit more like business as usual. But that, I think, is partly with me as well. I think that's just me kind of maybe hoping for like Mordheim or something coming out, you know? However, there was one thing that was absolutely not business as usual. Because as mentioned at the beginning of this video, there was one deeply disturbing little nugget hidden away in the bowels of the Warhammer community post for the new Kill Team box set. Here is a quote from that box set. Every box in the upcoming season of Kill Team is thematically linked, exploring the setting of the Gallowdark, i.e. this is the Space Hulk that the game is taking place on. Further, you can grow your terrain collection throughout the releases, building up an incredible modular Kill Team board along the way. Can I get some alarm bells, please? Yeah, I think we're gonna need them. So look, this seems to me like another way the Games Workshop can cut the core content out of a game and sell it to you down the line in many different subsequent releases. And to me, this sounds like a monetization strategy that has the potential to be incredibly exploitative. Bear in mind, we currently live in a world where only 4 of the 8 factions for Kill Team are available for sale separately outside of these massive paywalled box sets. That's like half the releases can't be bought right now. But the molds exist, the sprues exist, the rules from them exist, and some people are fucking playing with them because they paid up. Yet, I can't buy them separately. Why not? Well, it's because Games Workshop want me to buy the massive box set. They want me to pay over $200 for 10 miniatures. And if I don't give in, if I don't pay this huge entrance fee, then I'm going to have to wait for months and months and months to play with these miniatures. Bear in mind that Kill Team is billed as a pretty competitive game. Really, this is a business model for consumers. It's trash. It's a trash business model. It absolutely sucks. And Kill Team has pioneered this business model. Now imagine on top of this is added a Pokemon style collect them all element to the terrain, the modular terrain inside the Kill Team boxes. Bearing in mind that the terrain is core to the Kill Team gameplay experience. These are not optional purchases. This is super concerning, and it would set an absolutely awful precedent in mini wargaming. Because yes, there are competitors who sell modular terrain for things like Space Hulks. You can look at Studio Archon, for example, sell the Rampart terrain. Or there's Battle Systems core space terrain as well. They have a ton of walls and corridors and would be pretty perfect for this. They even have a Gothic style one, which no surprises for guessing what setting it's meant to be compatible with. But surprise, surprise, wouldn't you know, Games Workshop have thought ahead and added mechanics into their games that only works with their specific, bespoke, overpriced terrain. In other words, Games Workshop have added f***ing DRM to the terrain of their games. I mean, think about this for a second. We might be entering a world now where you need to pay hundreds of dollars every single quarter in order to simply experience the core gameplay of a skirmish war game. Skirmish games should be small and accessible, not require a f***ing subscription to play. Evidently, Games Workshop did not get the memo. But of course, right? I mean, it makes sense that they're going down this road potentially. This is just a natural extension of the current business model of Kill Team. They're already utilizing a live service seasonal DLC schedule. They already sell a new box set with new warbands, with new rules every single quarter. But at least with the last box sets, you kinda got a full board of terrain. Kind of, a little bit, mostly, sort of half of the way there. But I suppose this is our reminder, Games Workshop are a public company and they will never be satisfied with some of the money. They want all of the money all of the time. And if they can pressure consumers into buying massive bundled box sets as often as possible, they will do so, even if that's just to get the terrain that's inside. Because after all, you want to complete your Gallowdark terrain, don't ya? So remember, these products are already designed to try and exploit the maximum number of people. And this seems like a potential new evolution of that sales model. And look, Games Workshop aren't dummies. There's one thing they're good at, it's selling. And they are aware that not every Kill Team faction will appeal to every player. That's why they try to keep them locked away inside the big bundles for as long as possible. What that means is that there is a limited market to who you can sell certain warbands to. Only so many people are going to be interested in Kroot. However, you can guarantee that every single Kill Team player will be interested in the new terrain if you make that new terrain collectible and mandatory. If the terrain is needed to make a full gameplay experience, well then we have less of an optional purchase and more of a mandatory buy. Therefore, it's something that every Kill Team player has to engage with. And refusing to sell this terrain separately at the exact same time as the bundles would be incredibly manipulative and incredibly exploitative, because it's new, innovative tactics like this that get players to turn from somebody who would be willing to buy a $60 squad of models that they think look cool into someone who will buy a $200, $300 box set that comes with another 10 more miniatures, a bunch of terrain, and some rules that they kind of are iffy on. In other words, this could be a doubling down of a business model that Games Workshop already utilize. One that is designed to condition average consumers into becoming whales, turning players into payers and optimizing profit at the expense of consumers like you and me. So yeah, I guess there was some pretty big news at the event. Just one that I will actively be keeping my eye on. And if you are curious about why we're seeing so many products to buy recently, why not check out my video on how the Games Workshop executives are in a little bit of a tight spot right now, and why they might just be desperate to squeeze everybody for a little bit more money here. And a huge thanks to my patrons, especially Steven Jackson, Sonic Bread, and Beauregard Quipman. Thank you so much for your support. And a big thanks to all my patrons. And as always, I'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.